Today we are making cake pops. And I gotta tell you, I was in Starbucks, I was getting my chai tea bags, which is my favorite little treat. And when I was there, I noticed they had these tiny little cake pops. And I thought I should look up and see how many calories in one of those. I was actually kind of thinking, the little devil on my shoulder was thinking, they're so tiny. They look like they wouldn't be that bad for you. And when I looked them up, it was unbelievable. They were 180 calories and 20 grams of sugar in one tiny little cake pop. And I was like, okay, there is no way I'm having one of those. That is crazy. So then I got home and I thought I should be making some cake pops for all of you guys and for my kids that are actually healthy, full of fiber, full of protein, full of healthy fats, something that I can serve my kids and feel good about. So let's get started. So today you are going to need half a cup of either ground up flaxseed or ground up chia seed. I've used chia seed here, but flaxseed tastes absolutely great. You can grind it up either in a coffee grinder or you can use it and do it in a Vitamix like I do. I also have a 1/4 cup of coconut flour. I have half a cup of a chocolate whey protein powder, and I have half a cup of cocoa powder. Over here I have a 1/4 cup of melted butter, and I also have a 1/4 cup of a ready-to-drink protein drink. Now you can pre-mix your own, or you could even use a heavy cream instead if you want it, but I'm using a vanilla protein drink. And I've already added into it my liquid sweetener. So you can use liquid stevia, you can use granular stevia, you can use a liquid sucralose if you want, your choice, but about half a cup of sugar equivalent. And then over here I have half a cup of plain Greek yogurt, and I have half a teaspoon each of baking soda and baking powder. Now if you count and you have a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if we really want to count our baking powder and our baking soda as 8 and 9 ingredients, I went online and I actually checked, and there's 98 ingredients in the cake pops from Starbucks, in the caramel cake pops. So I would rather have 9 ingredients where I know what I'm feeding my family than all sorts of trans fats and crazy stuff that's in the store-bought stuff. So let's get started, mix all this together, and have some fun making cake pops. So we're gonna start with our dry ingredients. I'm gonna put my chia seed in and my coconut flour, chocolate protein powder, and then because we want really chocolatey cake pops, lots and lots of cocoa. And then I'm gonna make sure those are all mixed together really nicely, and then I'll put in my wet ingredients. So when you're using a seed that you've ground up, like we are with our chia seed or our flax seed, sometimes it can lump up a little bit, especially depending on how moist the air is. So when you see little chunks, just go ahead and kind of break them up with your spoon against the side of the bowl and try and get it as consistent as you want. But it's not the end of the world. It doesn't have to be a perfect batter. So now we've got ours mixed up really nice. I'm going to go ahead and throw in our wet ingredients. I love adding Greek yogurt to my recipes, because it's got all sorts of probiotics that are really good for your gut flora, and it's also really high in protein. And then I'm adding in my sweetener and my protein powder, protein drink, and of course some butter. Now I know some of you are fatophobes and you don't like butter, you don't like the extra, but I'm telling you, it makes food taste real, it makes it taste really good. And all of the latest research now shows that saturated fats are not associated with heart disease. So go ahead, use real ingredients like your butters. Don't use canola oils, don't use trans fats, don't use things that have to be highly processed when you can. If you can use real ingredients, you're gonna wind up with a yummier recipe. So don't worry if you're worried, don't worry too much if you think your batter is gonna be too dry. Keep mixing it and make sure that you get it all nice and mixed so that the fats have a chance to work with your chia seed. Once you get it mixed, you should get a consistency that's like this, that's like a good cookie dough consistency. That's gonna be perfect for your chocolate cake pops. Okay guys, so I'm using a baby cakes little pop cake maker. You don't have to use that. You can use just the pans and put them in, or there's other little kits that are kind of two parts that you can use and put in the oven. But for now I'm using this because it only takes 5 minutes to bake them up. And I've already sprayed it with some coconut oil and it's already heated, so it's ready to go. And I've got my little mini ice cream scooper. I love this thing. It makes it so much easier when you're making little cookies or little sliver size bites. So we've got our dough and we're just gonna go ahead. Now to get the right amount, you kind of scrape it up against the bowl. So you fill your scooper and then scrape, and then you're just gonna pop it in to the bowl. And you can see it's about full. Now it's going to start to cook on the bottom, and that's okay, but you want to work pretty quick so that it cooks evenly. And you want it to be pretty much filling the top. If you fill it too little, they won't be quite round. If you fill it too much, it'll kind of seep out the sides a little bit. It's not a big deal if it does, you just kind of break it off. So here we go. There we go. And now I'm going to close this and I'm going to bake them for 5 minutes. There we go. Okay, so our first batch is ready. And look at this, they're perfect little balls. As I promised you, they filled up just perfectly. Look at that. We're going to set them down and let them cool for a few minutes. Now some of them that kind of escaped out the edge, see how there's like a little bit here where it came over the edge? Not a big deal. Once they're fully cooled off, you can just break those little parts right off and they'll look like perfect round cake pops. All right, so we are gonna decorate our cake pops. Now I'm gonna use a little trick. I know when you're used to seeing cake pops, especially the chocolate ones, they dip them in a special candy that then hardens. And we're not going to do that for a couple of reasons. One is because we have enough chocolatey goodness here. We're going to go ahead and do the top of our own healthy version of the Starbucks ones with icing that I love to use. All it is a few ingredients, which I'll show you in a minute. And then we're going to use our caramel and drizzle that on top. So let's get started. You are going to need half a cup of vanilla protein powder. You are going to need half a cup of unflavored Greek yogurt, a little bit of your sweetener of choice, your sugar substitute of choice, and I also have here a ready-to-drink vanilla protein drink. You can either premix your own or you can even just use a little bit of water. And that's all we're going to need for the vanilla topping, for the vanilla icing. Then we're going to just add some imitation caramel extract to some of the leftover that we're going to keep reserved, and we're going to use that to drizzle on top for our caramel. So we're going to dump in our protein powder and dump in our Greek yogurt, equal parts. And then I'm going to start mixing that really well. There we go. And once we kind of start to get it mixed up, we're going to add in a little bit of our liquid, and that's what's going to give us icing consistency. And you just want to do it a little bit at a time until you get the consistency that you want. So don't try and dump a bunch in, just a tiny little, maybe a couple of teaspoons at a time until it really starts to look like icing. Now I'm going to add my sweetener directly to my protein drink so that it's nice and sweet. And spill a little bit, and then I'm just going to add in, I'm eyeballing it, I'm just going to add in a little bit, and then I'm going to stir, and if I need more, I'll add more. And it's still pretty thick, so I'm going to add a little bit more in. And I would say, if you were measuring, I've got about a quarter cup in. And this looks pretty good now. This is a nice icing consistency, if you can see that. That's exactly what we're wanting. Okay, so one little trick you're gonna need with your cake pops is you're gonna dig a hole first, and then you're gonna get your icing, your protein icing, on your stick and kind of shove it down into the hole, and that's what's gonna help it stick to the stick so it doesn't slide off. So just go ahead and kind of poke it in a little bit, and then make sure you get some on the end of your stick, just like that, and then scoot it into the hole. Just like that. And then that will help hold your cake pop on. And I'm going to go ahead and stick that one there. Now usually you're going to find with your little cake pops that one side's going to be prettier than the other side. So take your smoother side and make sure that that's what's to the top, and that the uglier, more bumpy side goes to the bottom. And that's gonna make it a little bit easier too when you're decorating. So now that you have your icing the consistency that you want, this couldn't be any easier. You just take your cake pop and we're gonna dip it right in the icing, twirl it a little bit when you dip, and then pull it right out, shake it a little bit so that it kind of flattens out, and set it in your stand. Now if you don't have a little cake pop stand like the one I have, you can just use styrofoam, or even those little green styrofoam ones that people used to make for floral arrangements. You can use one of those too to stick your cake pop in. Doesn't that look great? Now your icing, because it's made out of protein powder, it will stiffen. It will harden up really nicely, and you'll wind up with almost like a candy-like top. And imagine that, we've got no sugar at all. This is all just protein powder, some Greek yogurt, and some sweetener. If you notice that it's a little bit big, that you kind of got a peak on top, that's okay. Just shake it a little bit and you'll have it perfect. I should mention too, oops, okay. If you don't use your icing in order to secure your little sticks in, then it won't hold while you dip it in your icing. So with our reserved icing, I've added a little bit more protein powder just so it's a little bit thicker than really what we want. And that's because I want my caramel to actually look like caramel color. So I'm gonna add a few drops of food coloring, which of course is gonna make it a little bit wetter. So I'm gonna add 3 drops, there we go, of the yellow, and I'm going to add 1 drop of the red. There we go. I think I accidentally did 2 drops, but that's okay. And as you can see, that's mixing up into a nice caramel color, and that'll contrast really nicely with the white tips on. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? Okay, our protein icing has started to harden up nicely, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna drizzle our yummy caramel all the way across the top. And I like to do it in a crisscross pattern. It does not have to be perfect, just go right ahead and drizzle it any way you want. There you go, and then we're gonna add a tiny little bit of salt to the top, and look at that. Isn't that cute? All right, now we have our healthy version of the salted caramel Starbucks treat, except that we don't have 20 grams of sugar. We have less than 1 gram of sugar, tons of fiber, tons of protein, and it looks absolutely delicious. Plus they were pretty fun to make. So let's actually try this out and see if it tastes okay. That was really good. Okay, I would love to see your versions. Please like this if you like the video. Comment below, subscribe so you get all of our really cool. Thank you so much, guys.